Greetings Rebel Scum, and welcome to another of our card spotlight videos for Star Wars the Deck Building Game from Fantasy Flight Games. Today we are trying something different and looking at two cards head to head, one Rebel and one Imperial. Let us know what you think of this format in the comments below, as we are still experimenting with the type of content we can produce for this game. The stars of today's show are the Y-Wing and the TIE Fighter. These are your basic one-cost combat cards that are the lowest form of improvement on your Rebel Trooper or Stormtrooper. Are they improvements though? You are still getting the same 2 attack value and you've had to pay 1 resource to acquire it, as opposed to getting it for free. So what you are really doing is paying for the card's printed ability. But because they only cost 1 resource, you are guaranteed to be able to afford one or all of them if they turn up in the Galaxy row on your opening turn. No, not as good as 0 to 2, but once you leave the 1-cost cards and look at something like an X-Wing or a B-Wing, these have a strictly 1-to-1 damage to cost ratio. So what can you do with 2 damage? Well, it would take you 4 plays to destroy your opponent's starting base. You could destroy a Rebel transport, but not anything else in the way of capital ships. You could bounty hunt a TIE bomber or a Duros spy. Basically anything you could do with the starting cards that you already have. But only 3 out of your 10 initial cards is able to inflict damage, and one of those is a wild card you should probably be using on the force track anyway. So, getting some early damage cards incredibly cheaply on turn 1 or 2 before your first reshuffle sounds like a great plan, as chances are your opponent won't be able to get a capital ship into play before then. Speaking of capital ships, our first combo of the day is the TIE Fighter and the Imperial Carrier. The Imperial Carrier is a capital ship which has the ability text,
"While Imperial Carrier is in play, each of your fighter units gains 1 attack."
So that 2 becomes 3 for no charge, and now you are sabotaging X-Wings and taking out C-ROC cruisers with a single card. Just to remind you that the word fighter isn't referring to the TIE Fighter in the title of the card, but the trait in bold italic at the midpoint of the card, so all your TIE bombers and TIE whatevers will be boosted too. But wait! Hold the communicator! The TIE Fighter's ability says,
"If you have a capital ship in play, draw 1 card."
We do have a capital ship in play. Card draw is incredibly powerful in a deck building game, as that 1 extra card is an additional 20% increase in your hand size, so don't just buy one of these, buy all of them. Particularly as the Rebel player seems obsessed with making you discard cards. So far it looks like the TIE Fighter with its double combo magic is a runaway leader. What does the Y-Wing have going for it? Well, as we haven't seen the full card pool yet, we can't be sure, but we can't find any handy character, capital ship, or base card combo that benefits this card. So the Y-Wing is on its own, and it all comes down to its ability, which is,
Exile this unit to deal 2 damage to your opponent's base or a capital ship they have in play.
Remember, this is separate from the 2 attack value printed on the card, so you can bring this into play, contribute 2 to an attack or sabotage, and then exile to deal an additional 2 damage. Quite punchy for a 1 resource card, right? Definitely not a long-term engine like the TIE Fighter Carrier combo, but for something you could do on your 3rd turn, it is respectable. Let's remind you that printed abilities are optional. You don't have to trigger what a card says every turn, or you'd be blowing this one up as soon as you played it. Also, if an ability allows you to deal damage to the enemy base, this damage is dealt directly to the base, ignoring capital ships. Don't underestimate this. While this isn't as flashy as the TIE Fighter, it is solid and reliable, much like the Y-Wing itself. But the damage isn't what you should be focusing on. The fact this card exiles itself is where the true value lies. In the end game, when your deck is full of potent cards like Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia and so on, you don't want to be drawing something with a measly 2 attack value. You want this long gone by then, as your opponent is one-shotting your Mon Calamari cruisers and Nebulon B frigates with the Death Star, and time is short. The importance of exiling your early game cards and thinning your deck cannot be overstated to new players. What good are power cards if they are lost in a chunky draw pile and you won't see them for another 5 turns? To exile, you don't want to be reliant on cards like IG-88 that requires a setup condition. If you use the Mighty Jabba, he only exiles from your hand, so you won't get to play this card for his 2 attack value. Even if the Y-Wing didn't have the damage of a parting shot, this exile ability allowing the card to depart gracefully once you have a Millennium Falcon in your deck is more than worth it. Okay, let's talk about sabotage and bounty hunting. How do these cards look from across the table? We have told you where the strength of these cards lie, so you will know how they can be used against you, so you can assess what threat they currently pose. Probably a lot less in the late game than in the opening turns. It is worth noting that the Imperial carrier is a capital ship, so can't be sabotaged in the Galaxy Road to head off that +1 bonus. You must deal with it in play or get rid of these fighter cards before they appear. Both these cards are identical in that you do 1 damage to discard them and then receive 1 resource as a reward. An ideal use for one of your starting cards, right? But probably not worth overspending just to deny your opponent a 2 attack value card. Unless you are desperate to trigger an effect on cards like IG-88, Cassian Andor, Boba Fett, Bosk and so on. But if you use your Rebel Trooper or Stormtrooper, that 1 damage is half its potential. The excess damage is lost. So aren't you better off doing 2 damage to your opponent's base or a capital ship? The only card we have seen so far that does a single damage is your wild starting card, and you could use that to produce a single resource anyway. Don't forget that the Galaxy row fills up immediately, so a better card for your opponent may appear. Or a better card for you. We can't advise you without seeing what else is going on with your board state. If you were 1 resource short of purchasing your dream card, then yes, you could attack this card to cover it. Drawing 4 out of your 5 potential resources is common in an opening hand, and there are some killer cards at 5 cost, like the B-Wing for the Rebels and Director Krennic for the Empire. Let us know if you want videos on these cards, or every card. That looks like it, apart from the history lesson. Both of these craft debuted in the original 1977 Star Wars A New Hope. The flavor text on the TIE Fighter is from the opening battle of Endor in Return of the Jedi. The art has probably been recycled from previous products, so if you spot where the TIE Fighter art comes from, do let us know in the comments below. Turns out FFG has a lot of TIE Fighter images, and we gave up looking after about an hour.